right, we're going.
I don't have the gavel. Oh. Stand by. I don't have the gavel. And what would we do without the official gavel? Troy, we'll give you a minute to get settled.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. That's the wrong one. All right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming to the May 10th, 2022 City of Oregon City Joint Work Session with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. And Mr. Wiley, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commission President Denise McGriff.
Present.
And for the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, Committee Member Andy Crump, I believe is absent. Committee Member Brent Haverkamp, also absent. Committee Member Tim West.
Here.
Committee Member Karen Morey is online.
Yes, present.
Committee Member Kent Worcester.
Here.
Committee Member Steve Williams.
Here.
And Committee Member Joseph Knauf.
Here.
And Chair Troy Bollinger.
Here.
All right. Well, as I said before, welcome everyone. Tonight we have on our agenda a discussion about the Clackama Park site plan options. And we have with us this evening our illustrious Parks and Recreations Director, Mr. Kendall Reed, Mr. Tony Conkle, Jonathan Waverly, and our consulting team. So I will turn it over to Mr. Conkle and Mr. Reed.
As City Commission and Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, it's my pleasure tonight to provide an update on our Clackama Park Master Plan. We kicked off our Parks Master Plan for Clackama Park back in December of 2020. We've been working with Lango Hansen Landscape Architects, and tonight we have Kurt Lango and Brian Martin here seeking input on the 3 site design options. Kurt?
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Kurt Lango. I'm with Lango Hansen Landscape Architects. I'm also joined virtually with Brian Martin from our office that has worked intimately on this project from the very beginning. I also wanted to make several other introductions, members that are here to help support and answer questions that you have. From the Oregon State Marine Board, we have Janine Balick. We also have from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, we have 2 members, Holly Hutchko and Ben Walzak. I'll be giving the presentation. I'll try to keep it to about 20 minutes, but they will be here to answer any questions that you might have and participate during this discussion section. As you see on your screen, we have the view of the Clackama Park Master Plan. What I thought I would do is give just a very brief overview of where we are in the process. We began this work back in February, and on March 1st, we had our very first open house along with a public survey that we sent out. We were very pleased by the response. We had about 500 participants for the survey. The open house was both in person and virtual. At that time, we did not have a design. It was really more of a listening session. We didn't have any preconceived notions of what should go in the park. And we actually received a lot of good feedback, and I'll go through that briefly. We also recently had a second open house, and that's where we took those comments that we got from the very first meeting and the survey, and we combined them into 3 options, which I believe was sent and was part of your packet. So those are the heart of the discussion, and we'll go through those tonight. At the same time, we started a survey probably about 2.5 weeks ago To date, we've gotten 400 respondents on that. I think everyone from the city and the design team is just thrilled with the amount of response that we've gotten. After tonight, we will take comments that we hear from the commission and the PRAC members, as well as the public open house and the survey, and begin to narrow down the options into a final master plan. We anticipate coming back before this commission and PRAC to present those findings and get comments as well. Brian and I started out this process by listening to all the tapes from several years ago that were before this commission and the PRAC members. And I think we heard three things from that. Outreach, outreach, and outreach. I think the commission really wanted us to go out into the community, hear from members, the anglers, people that visited the park. And I think we've done that comment justice, and we're happy to show that to you today. We also had a number of stakeholder interviews, which you see down there, both members of this committee, as well as individuals, citizens, and agencies. I'm really going to spend very little time on this slide because this is really what you know well. Clackama Park, right here, bounded by the Willamette and Clackamas River. Of note here is showing in the darker green all the existing trees on site, but I wanted to bring your attention to the two kind of pink parcels that are located across Main Street, and those are being considered as part of this park. Even though they aren't technically parked, they are city-owned parcels. So you'll see that in the subsequent presentation. Also, this bears very little explanation, but just wanted to give you highlights as you all have visited the park many times. The entry drive off of Main Street, vehicular parking, trailer parking, and the now decommissioned boat ramp, horseshoe pit, skate park. North is to the left on this drawing, so skate park and the horseshoe pit to the east. The single swing set, which qualifies as the play area, the RV park, which is located in the center of the park, and then the several trails that traverse that green space right now. We also just wanted to bring to your attention and keep in the back of your mind is the floodplains. It's no surprise, but the entire site, including the parcels across the street, as shown in red, are all within the 100-year floodplain. On the opposite end of the scale, the one-year floodplain is shown in blue, and that's where you have the yearly inundation of the RV park, as well as other parts of the park. I wanted just to spend a little bit of time on the initial survey that was sent out several years ago that formed the basis for the design. There's just 4 or 5 questions that we took out of the probably dozen questions that we had in terms of a priority for the park. You can see the top 4, the boat launch, natural areas, play area, restroom, and then towards the bottom, the RV park signage. We talked about an enhanced entrance, and then also the horseshoe pits. The importance of green space was ranked very high and almost overwhelming. And then also the primary reasons why you visit the park. So access to the river, enjoying the outdoor space, boat launch, all the top 3 responses. And again, these were 500 responses on the dot that we received. We also asked a little bit more specifically about the boat ramp and what should be done. Should it be kept in the park? What's green is shown to be kept, and then the blue is removing the boat park from the park. And then lastly, we asked about the RV park and whether that should be relocated out of the park. And the top response there, shown in yellow ochre, was to relocate it. Before I go into the master plan, having listened to the tapes of the previous session, the previous master plan effort, really concentrated what I believe primarily around the boat launch and I think, and river access. And I think that's an integral and a very important part of the park. But we also wanted to say that this is a 25-acre park. And so it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And a lot of people visit this park for a variety of reasons. So when we begin to think about this visioning process and what we want this park to become, it's other things as well. And we just wanted to share just a couple images, such as walkways, fully accessible ADA walkways, both in the park and that also views to the river. Taking that swing set out and actually making a play area that invites kids of all ages, and they want to come to the park because of the play area. And then also native vegetation, thinking about opportunities both for mitigation and creating really a lot of habitat value within the park. And then thinking about ways to kind of further engage the river, whether it's overlooks or ways to get down into the park, and really increasing the habitat value. And then lastly, interpretation. There's a lot of really interesting both natural and cultural history with this park, thinking about ways to interpret, whether we introduce more active opportunities to bring in both kids, teens, and parents of all ages. And then the bottom center is really, do we think about creating an event space? So those are some of the kind of the imagery that we thought might be appropriate. I'll go into each of the three park designs, and then we have a little bit of technical information that we want to share. So with option one, again, north is to the left, coming off Main Street, the entrance to the park, as well as most of the parking, is approximately in the same location. We tried to make it a little bit more efficient, just in terms of how you navigate through that space, but by and large, it's almost exactly the same. We are keeping the existing boat launch where it is. We know that there is the wave that is there, and I have to say there was really strong support both in the survey, but also participants in the public meeting for non-motorized craft, for kayaks, for utilization of that element that has occurred over time. What we are showing now is the boat launch, which is the new boat launch, which is approximately 350 feet downstream. You may recall this is the same position that it was presented during the last round of conversations years ago. What we have begun to show now is more of an extensive trail system that traverses through the park, that gets people to the edge of the park, as well as loops that create kind of ADA accessible walking trails. All the existing trees, by and large, are kept as they originally are right now, and we've probably added another 100 trees within this plan. Also, we've added another appendage or parking area as you come off of Main Street if you turn left or west. And this is in the approximate location where the existing RV road is. So we're not taking out any existing trees. And in fact, a lot of people park there anyways during the busy summer months. So we decided to formalize that and to get people more into the park with that parking area right there.
Could you point that out where you say people are parking now, where they're not really supposed to be parking, I guess is what I thought you said?
Okay, I will.
Maybe we
Pointer
need to
doesn't
use the
work very
hand.
good, so just describe it to me.
Okay, well, if you coming in off of Main Street,
Okay.
instead of going straight to the Clackama River, if you hang a left and you go down that kind of smaller kind of parking
Okay,
area.
where the hand
to where
is.
it's the little turnaround right in there.
And
so that's exactly that same kind of entry, that kind of gravel asphalt road where there's the existing RV park.
Okay. And you said that's where people are parking now?
Well, that's what we understand is that
Okay.
people park in that area
Okay.
as well. The other thing you'll see with this plan is that we have taken the existing RV park and we have moved it over to the other side of the street. And what we've done right here is there's approximately 20 spaces right now as part of this plan. But then we also have a loop where we've allowed for overflow trailer parking. I do want to mention as part of this plan, we probably increased the amount of trailer parking within the park by about 12 spaces. And then we have added those additional spaces up in that lot as well. I think in a very kind of quick summary, and again, we'll certainly come back to these plans, but this is option one. So option two, I think first of all takes a look at that Main Street and that intersection and tries to create a safe way both to kind of enter into the park, but create more of a threshold as you kind of enter that with views down to the river. So we've made a T intersection. So as you come to the end of Main Street, or Clackama Drive, you then go into a smaller parking lot, which would be a vehicular parking lot, and then also the main trailer parking. I do want to mention, because of the previous option, I forgot to say, but the play area is located on the other side of the vehicular parkway. And so that is number one right there on your screen, right next to the existing skate park. So in this option, we've actually flipped it over onto the other side. So it's really part of that kind of larger green space. And then we really compacted, but still very efficient trailer parking. And what we tried to do here was pull it away from the edge of the Clackamas River. So you're not parking right on there. And what that does is it allows for an overlook, what's shown in that ochre color, along with the shelter. So it's really much more of a pedestrian, something for visitors rather than cars. We've kept the existing boat launch where it is. What we're suggesting here is that there might be ways to introduce some seating elements. We know that there's a lot of water coming down in that area and it floods, but there might be ways to still allow kayaks, non-motorized boats to come down there and still make it pleasurable to view the river. We've kept the boat launch where it was previously proposed in option one. And then the other thing of note with this, along with the trails, is we have gently carved out the area where there's the existing RV park. Not so much that there would always be water in there, but it would be inundated more often than it is right now, an opportunity to reestablish a wetland, native plants, water-loving plants, and then it would have a boardwalk that crosses along there. With this particular option, we are not showing the RV park. We understand that that is city-owned land, and there may be opportunities for development, whether it's in the short term or long term. So with this option, we're not showing the park within that park vicinity.
So where did it go?
Well, that would be yet to be determined.
It doesn't exist, okay. It's not there, okay, all right.
But I think, and I appreciate that comment. I think with these options, what we've tried to do is to provide very distinct opportunities or options for people to consider. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I don't think I've ever hit the mark on the right option. It's always a combination of options. And so keep that in mind as we're going through these different ideas. So this last option is taking that parking lot, instead of pushing it all the way to the east, is actually comes down to the park a little bit more to better serve those elements that we have throughout the park. What that does is it opens up an opportunity adjacent to an expanded skate park is to have more active sport courts, and those could be pickleball, basketball, and any number of kind of sport court-like activities that are kind of nestled back in that area. We still have the T intersection that comes off into that parking lot. And then as we move towards the Clackamas River, You'll notice we do not show the existing boat launch or the proposed. So for this option, because we did hear people say that their preference was not to have that, we're showing a revegetated bank in those areas. We're still providing access from the parking lot for non-motorized boats down to the river, but with this option, we're not showing the larger boat launch. The play area, instead of kind of tucked up over on the kind of north side or northeast or west side, we brought it down into the park, expanded it, wonderful views of the Willamette River and adjacent to parking and a potential shelter. For this option, we did show the full RV park. There's 25 spaces in there right now, which fit nicely into that area. There is that existing pump station, which is right at the entry. What our hope is, or what our proposal would be, is that is somehow integrated across the street as part of this RV park. Just a couple slides. This is hot off the press. This is the current survey. We wanted to give you a sneak peek. We've had approximately 400 people respond to the survey so far. We still have about a week and a half left before the survey closes, but I think it was important for you to share kind of what we've heard. So we just took 4 out of the 12 questions. And so the first one is, do you strongly support the boat launch? There's kind of different degrees: strongly support, or not support. What's shown in green is strongly support the boat launch. Down below is the RV park options. It goes by option. Green is 1, blue is 2, and then 3 is ochre. So option 1, which retained the RV park over on the other side, that split it with overflow parking, was the preferred response by a little bit. On the upper right-hand side, we asked explicitly, which option do you prefer, 1, 2, or 3? Option 1 is in blue, option 2 is in ochre, and then option 3 is in blue. So you see the responses right there. And then lastly, we talked about the wave, which also split per the options. Just briefly on this, because we have experts that live this day to day, we just wanted to point out where the boat launch, the preferred boat launch from the previous effort, where it's situated comparing to the existing one. The existing one you see at the top of the screen, and that yellow color is the proposed. On the left-hand side is the proposed boat launch, which had the kind of circular entry, which had some impacts to trees and the existing open space. What we are showing on our plans is the boat launch on the right-hand side, which shows a reduced impact to that area. As you may recall, there were a number of reasons for the boat launch where it's being proposed right now, 350 feet downstream. One of the reasons was just separating the non-motorized from the motorized. That is an existing riprap channel, which can withstand a lot of the erosive nature of the Clackama River. It's also a deep part of the channel. So the other colors were some other options that were discussed, I think, with this committee, and we can come back to the slide during the question and answer period. Just one last thing with the RV park. There was a study that was done in 2015. Currently, there's 38 spaces. Their suggestion was to bring it up to national standards. It would go down to 25 spaces. So that's what we're showing across the street, is anywhere from 20 to 25 spaces to meet that national standard. As I mentioned, we have about 10 days, 12 days left on the survey. For those listening in or for those people that are here, we would still love to hear your comments on this process and the project. I do want to mention that there was a letter that was part of your packet that was sent by ODF&W, which described the history of the boat launch, some of the funding that was done, grants that were given to the city, which I think we can discuss further. And Kendall, you might have something to say on that.
Yes, I just wanted to highlight the fact that ODF&W and the Oregon State Marine Board have been great partners the past 2 years, working with us on looking at options for the boat ramp. Obviously, we had a lot of conversations about remedies associated with if we decided not to have a boat ramp. And there's been a lot of questions about specific amounts we would be responsible for. We know it will have an impact on us financially, specifically around our maintenance assistance program, where we receive funds associated with the boat ramps like Clackama Parks, Sportscraft Landing, and John Storm Park. But we don't have any specific figures in regards to what would happen in regards to having to pay back money or grant funds. Obviously, ODF&W and the Oregon State Marine Board are here to provide information, not tell us what to do. Ultimately, it's our decision. Then they would need to go back based on whatever decision we make and have conversations with their leadership about what are the next steps. But none of those specific figures are available at this time.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions of our committee members and commissioners? All right.
Did you explore moving the boat ramp to the Willamette?
No, we did not. In our conversations with the agencies, including the Oregon State Marine Board and ODF&W, I think there were a number of technical issues associated with that move. So that was something that we did not explore.
So I own a drift boat, and I do the Clackama River quite a bit. And the boat launches that are on the Clackamas all have calm water where you can go ahead and launch and then land your boat. And the Clackama Park, especially in current conditions like today, all right, there's no way you can go ahead and launch or land in that kind of condition. And the reason why that the dock is not there today that was put in 2003 is that the current blew it away. And why go ahead and put another ramp in a similar situation? I believe that the Willamette really offers a safer spot to go ahead and put in a ramp and also a dock. If you look at it right now with the high water, the only calm water that is on either side of the Clackama is at your beach access point right there. And it would make great sense to go ahead and remove the RV park area, okay, or launch a boat right there and have overflow parking where you put the RV park in up above.
I'm going to go ahead and bring in Janine, because I think that having her answer some of these questions, as well as historically what was studied, I think would be good.
Just go wherever you'd like.
Great. Thank you for your question.
Am I on? So commissioners, committee members, for the record, my name is Janine Balek. I'm the Boating Facilities Program Manager at the State Marine Board. We actually did look at the Willamette. There's a report that shows looking at it. As you noticed in the slide that showed where the floodway, that area floods annually. With the high sensitivity on a balanced cut and fill, the amount of elevation we would have to gain to put a boat ramp in that location would not be permissible underneath the flood plan. I hope that helps you.
I think that kind of answers that question. Go ahead.
I suppose I'll speak up. I'm an avid boater, drift boat fisherman, have been, jet sleds, boats with pumps instead of props. I have somewhat of an engineering background with degrees in hydraulics. Spent a lot of time on rivers. And I look at, I'm just going to take one element. We're talking about the boat ramp. Put a boat ramp perpendicular to the flow of the current is a fool's errand. And the result we got is what could be expected over time. I thought, and I saw it vaguely in one of these, I've been on rivers like the North Fork of the Lewis River in Washington, where the boat ramp is angled. It's cut in at like 30 degrees. So every time you remove something from the perpendicular flow of the river, you reduce its force on the boat ramp. I thought that maybe we should explore, if we need to stay on the Clackama, explore an angled boat ramp that would reduce those forces by as much as 70%. And it could be, downstream from the existing, of course. I think what people would like to call a water feature, whatever the wave is called, it's not like we built a water park there. That thing is a hazard to navigation, and it's going to continue to be a hazard to navigation. And as the water erodes at the base of it, and that panel, whatever it may be, 4 feet by 20 feet, continues to tip upward, we've got a hazard to navigation. We've got something that's a threat to life and safety. And quite honestly, I'm surprised the Coast Guard, as keepers of the inland waterways on a navigable stream, have not entered into the discussion. So those are the two elements that we're talking about right now. I agree. The ability to launch and recover perpendicular to the flow of a stream is crazy. But an angled ramp that would be more in keeping with the direction of the stream, where you could drop in and you'd be protected by it. And of course, you know what that would look like. Riprap on the upside of the cut, riprap again. So when the boat ramp enters into discussion, and I'm sure it will with the number of fishermen we have, I don't think we've explored all options yet. I'll leave it at that.
Has the Marine Board looked into a boat launch that's similar to the Barton boat launch, where there's a big cut and calm water where you can go ahead and launch and retrieve your boat?
Committee member, we have not looked at it specifically. With any time you are doing something in the water, there's pros and cons. If you stick something further out into the water, you have more velocity and current, which can be very beneficial if you're trying to keep sediment off of the ramp. If you tuck it back into a cove, you accrue sedimentation, you accrue other things. So with any type of application, there are positives and negatives associated with it. We have not pursued trying to do that or realigning the ramp to align more downstream at this location. Historically, we were going forward in a direction. Everything has stopped and kind of been in limbo for about the last 5 to 6 years. If those are, I guess from a Marine Board perspective, if the city wants to pursue a boat ramp, I think the alignment of it is something that can be explored further. If the city does not want to pursue a boat ramp, then that's a different type of discussion.
Before the next person asks the question, with the gentleman in the orange shirt in the back row, can you hear? Okay, I just want to make sure. Sometimes I see these sort of blank and I'm thinking, okay, give me a signal if you can't hear, just put your hand up so I can see, because the acoustics in this room are not the greatest, and I'd like to apologize, but we want to make sure everybody can hear. But if you're too close to the mic, we have weird feedback.
And if maybe I could pick up on what you said, is that there's a willingness to explore some other options. That would not happen under this master planning effort. I think that would be subsequent, and there's a whole body of technical engineers that would look at that specifically. But it sounds like that is something that could be done.
Roy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions, but they're not about the boat ramp, boat launch. So do you want to stay here first before I move on? Or
Let's stay here.
Okay, all right.
No, I want to stay here.
We'll be back on the
One
boat ramp
more comment.
100 more times in the
Okay,
next
hang
10
on,
years.
one more, and Frank's got something to say about the boat ramp.
I want to say this, the hydraulics of that river have changed over the years. There's been structures removed. Anybody understands flow through channels or flow through pipes? If you remove something downstream, you change the flow rates upstream. Second thing that we've all heard is the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing you've done before and expect a different outcome. That ramp failed for a reason, the existing one. If you duplicate it, even downstream, you're asking because flow rates will change seasonally and you will have the same outcome. It's just a question of years. And that's all I've got to say on the matter. Thanks.
Okay.
I would say that there is a huge demand for a boat launch on the Clackama. And I think that by realigning it and going in at an angle and cutting the bank a little bit, if that's the only way that we could do this and get some permanence to that kind of ramp, I think it'd be great. And the thing is that it will affect your master plan because you have to reroute traffic all the way around that. So it would be different.
Thank you.
I guess for Sean Dashler, who is not here tonight, but we had a brief discussion this evening, there has been a sentiment by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee that they did not want to see, and correct me, members, if I'm incorrect on this, that a loss of open space. We have to remember that this is a regional park, correct? And that it serves many users. It is not just one thing. And I know we can't be all things to all people, but what we're looking at, I believe, with this master plan is to try to do some improved habitat because we do have the flooding issue. And I think that's really, really important that we need to not make any more pervious surface there so that the flooding can do what it needs to do, but yet we can restore some of the area with riparian habitat that should have been there and was there years and years ago. I do know that there is a concern, as I stated, about, do we want to have lots of parking lots or do we want to have some place where there can be multiple activities occurring there instead of just parking things? So I'm just bringing that out. That's not my opinion, but that is some comments that I've heard from some members of PRAC. Karen, do you have anything to say on the boat ramp, Karen, before we leave this issue for the moment?
Thank you for noticing, Denise.
I'm going to try to sum this all
into one.
Try speaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry, what?
Speak up a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me?
Sort of barely.
Okay, dang it. Phone should be the best. I was leaning to option one. I wasn't a fan of putting the boat ramp back in, and I've used that boat ramp. However, the location for option one, I want to thank Donnie for his input. Good reminder that it's a short season, that ramp is really used. And I do think it should stay on the Clackamas. Unfortunately, Donnie and I both grew up in the days of dredging when the channel was maintained in that area. And without dredging, we have a new world to deal with. But I am supporting option one and the new location for the ramp closer to the Willamette. Would strongly suggest that we're careful as we work with state and federal funding in the future. So in 2036, if there's nowhere left to put a boat ramp, we have nowhere left to put a boat ramp. And I am 100% in favor of moving the RV park up to what I still refer to as the water treatment plant. But It needs to come off the riverfront. I think we've restored a lot of green to the area with option one, and I think Longo's put some great thought into this. So my input is go with option one for both our fishing friends and people like me who just love to go down there with a sandwich and enjoy the park.
Hey, Troy, thank you for waiting.
No problem. Yeah, I got a couple things. First, since we talked about open space, I'll go there. And I also spoke with Sean. Sean has a great memory. Actually, not even, well, he has a memory, but he's got records that he keeps from many years on this. He is correct. I think we go back 2013, 14, 15, somewhere in there where PrAC has made it very, very clear that we don't want to lose any open space. So my question is, in all of this mapping and diagramming and researching, what is the gain or loss of open space? Because I know we move, if we move the RV park, then we kind of pick up some where the RV park was, because that gravel parking lot doesn't count as open space, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then depending on what parking lots or parking structure we choose, will determine if we gain or lose. So from where we are now to the three options, where are we at?
Well, I don't have a specific answer for each scheme, but I can tell you some of the quantities or the square footages. So right now, the existing RV park is approximately 90,000 square feet, so it's a little over 2 acres.
Of just open space?
Yes, of hard surface, so to speak, that would be removed. The proposed boat launch is approximately 20,000 square feet of new asphalt. So there's a gain of about 70,000, almost 2 acres of open space just with those two elements. Now, it slightly varies with the different parking lot schemes, and certainly those still need to be refined in terms of exactly the amount of parking, but there will definitely be at least an acre of net gain of open space with any of these options.
I would suggest that we add that piece to each option. If we look at the survey, it was clear that that was top with the boat and the open space. And as we're taking this to the public for transparency, I think we need to tell them which of those options has a net gain or loss and how much of the open space. I think that's critical, because even if it's a little bit and we make a decision and the park's in, if we don't have those numbers, we're going to get complaints. We have nothing to show anybody as far as what took place. So I think that's important to have.
Okay, we can do that.
And then the other piece is the RV spaces, the RV park. Right now, Kendall, tell me if this has changed, but my understanding is that is a net profit. There's a profit there. There's a gain to the city by having that 38 spaces.
Money on the RV park.
We're losing money now.
Yes.
No, that's not true, and it's never been true.
That is not true.
Well, wait a minute, everybody.
Let me explain.
Hang on.
We just went through our cost recovery analysis, and we looked at the expenses associated with the RV park and the money that we bring in. Part of the issue with the RV park is we have to close it due to flooding, and there has to be cleanup. We're currently utilizing park hosts who are volunteers to help us manage the RV park. Well, that cuts into the amount of time we can be open, so that's why we lose money on the RV park.
Okay, so you're looking at it from an annual standpoint, because the open and close.
Yes.
And in that figure, are you calculating man hours for maintenance?
We're looking at maintenance costs and
Because I know that's not always segmented out,
Right,
but I think
right.
for this it could be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already figured in there. And now we're dropping down to 25 spots. Now, I think there's probably a reasonable argument for they're going to be nicer, they're going to be better. Maybe we can keep them open longer, because of the flooding and whatnot, moving them up. I think that's reasonable. But again, my question would be, what's the difference? Are we losing more money by losing spots? Are we actually losing less or making money because they're nicer spots and we can have them open longer? I think that's important too, because that becomes some kind of a net cost to the city just to move them or to not move them. I think that number's important too.
Right, and so with a nicer RV park comes higher prices. So there would be analysis done to justify what we're charging. So we would make sure that we would net a profit off the RV park.
And I would think that's important, and I think it's important to bring that before the decision is made, even if it's clearly on a proposed basis, because we don't know exactly what those are, but there's comparables, in the area. I think that's important to be able to tell the citizens what's going to happen. If we move the RV park, is it going to cost us money, or are we going to make a little bit of money? I mean, if we make money and we have more green space, those were two of the three things that everybody wanted. So I think that's a win. But on the other hand, if we don't, I think they need to know that, because I don't know that I want to pick option whichever if I know it's going to have less green space and lose more money on the RV park. It might look nicer, but at the end, I don't know that it's better for the city. So I think that's important to be able to share with people.
So
Those are the two I have.
What do we charge for currently, and then what we're obviously not, we're not at market right now.
No.
So what do we charge for? 25 to 30 for a night?
Yeah.
And then if they want to dump at the
That's part of their stay.
oh, that's part of it. But if somebody just,
Staying,
right, so if somebody wants to just come and dispose of their sewage, then it's like, you said it was $5. That seems a little low, but, don't know. Mr. O'Donnell.
Let me share with everyone something from a 2019 email to Wyatt Parno, who was our city financial director at the time, when the same question surfaced about the RV park and its profitability. The Clackama RV park brings in about $130,000 in revenue annually, $110,000 in camping fees, $13,000 in dump station drop box donations, and $7,000 in transient lodging taxes, which is what you pay in the hotel that goes to allow us to do other things. That thing has operated, despite even if it's annual cleanup, has operated at a profit. Now, I don't know where those figures come from, but I know Mr. Parno, and he kept a tight rein on finances. So I feel I'm not jumping at the chance to move it. I've camped around the country, and I can tell you, if you can camp on a river, you're willing to pay premium prices. We're underselling it. We should, if the decision goes to keep it and keep it where it's at, improve it with some gravel parking, some trees, and some picnic tables, and bump the price, because we're under market value. But I wanted to share those financials with you because this same question came up over 3 years ago, and it's probably come up years before that, too. Mm-hmm. The other thing the thing I do agree with you about, sir, many, there's no one plan. It's almost going to be a hybrid of all of them that gets you what you want. And I love the fact that at some point you move the children's play area closer to where the families are going to be, as opposed to putting it next to the skate park, out of sight of your protectors and your parents. And thank you.
Go ahead.
So I agree with most of the comments about the RV park. I think balancing the benefits of moving it needs to be looked at more. Moving it to a place up from the river may make more money, but having it away from the river is going to be less desirable for people. So we have to balance all of that. I don't want to talk too much about this because this meeting has been going on for 15 years. I've had this conversation, every one of these conversations 20 times over the last decade. I'm sick of it, honestly. We've looked at every possible solution. I will say one thing I do appreciate is these are the better of the concepts I've seen in the last 15 years. So I think there is some listening happening. At least from our consultants on this. The other topic in terms of the Marine Board, maybe not listening so well over the last 15 years. And so I want to know kind of what the next steps are on this, because clearly we're not going to make any kind of push for one direction or another tonight. I'm assuming this will be back to us multiple meetings before we even get close to that. But if and when we get to the conversation about the boat ramp, that needs to be a very specific work session, which we've had many with the Marine Board, especially if it comes to money that we may or may not owe in the future. I'll leave it at that for now.
Mr. Adamaro.
Thank you, Commissioner McGriff. Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm not going to get into the boat ramp stuff because enough has already been said about that. I will say that at a more broader level, I really like option 2 because it doesn't close the door to any RV park. I think it shows a priority of the city. I mean, for me personally, there's so much that we need to balance here that putting the RV park as the central part of this master plan, I don't think would be wise for us when there are so many other opportunities, especially while we're talking about how we're going to configure a boat launch. I mean, we need to talk about how the floodplain configures into this, and so I really like the riparian restoration zone with the boardwalk, and then there's the overview there. I think that this one encapsulates a much better ability to work with how the land is there rather than trying to fight against it. So that's what I really appreciate about this one. And I mean, I don't have any strong feelings about the RV park. And it was my understanding that it was a net loss for us. And I recognize that Parks and Rec, it is a balance here because, you know, we need to be providing parks and recreation services for our community. You know, we've got our pool, and that's a huge loss for us as well. I'm glad to see that our cost recovery program is going to help make up for that. But we need to be moving forward with this in a fiscally sustainable manner. And so I think if we were to delay the conversation for the RV park so that we can get the parts that we know are going to work with the land that is already there, I think that would be the most prudent course of action. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Question.
Before I throw my 2 cents into this? Oh, yes.
I got set out here today. I don't know.
Steve, yeah, so I was going to call on you to see if you had anything to add.
Just a couple of observations.
So don't forget, for the record, you are.
For the record,
Even
my
though I
name is.
can read your name.
Yeah. For the record, my name is Steve Williams. I'm on the PRAC committee.
Yeah.
A couple observations with regard to the RV park, its current location. For those of you who've walked from the north end of the park to the south, the one advantage possibly of moving the RV park to one of the alternate locations is that you're going to get quite a bit more utilization out of the south end of that park. Right now, I've been down there a couple different times in the last month or so, and as you walk to the south, it kind of feels like the park's over with when you get to the RV park. Yet you have an awful lot of the park still to the south of there that could be utilized as open space and a lot of other things. So I think there's some additional advantages. You may get better utilization of the overall park from the move than you currently do. Just one observation about the boat ramp, and then I won't bring it up again till we have another meeting. It was my understanding of all of the meetings I've been to where those displays were presented, those were just graphical representations. I certainly agree with Commissioner O'Donnell. There's no use trying to put anything perpendicular in there, and I don't know that these were meant to ultimately look at the angle of way the park was, or the ramp was intended for. I still think that there were some good questions about the location there on the Willamette. I understand we have an answer here. I'm not one to say that, you know, that's probably not the final answer. I would hope we would continue to look at both of those options. Be sure we've explored the Willamette option thoroughly before we give up on it and go over to the Clackamas. Because my experience in many, many years of actually being involved in putting in lots of boat ramps through the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife is that the Clackamas one's going to be a challenge. It can be done. I'll guarantee you the engineers can figure out how to do it. But certainly, if the Willamette location, we want to be sure that you've looked at all of the options that are available there to be sure that no means no in that particular case, because that does eliminate a lot of the problems that I think you're going to try to have to engineer out of it onto the Clackamas. So anyway, I certainly support the options that have got a boat ramp in them, but there's a lot of work to be done, and I agree with Commissioner O'Donnell. We don't want to throw good money after bad. We want to get the right option in there, but I don't think those were intended to finally depict the way that that boat ramp was to be shaped. So thank you.
Oh, thank
And
you,
I'll
Steve.
try to get out of the jail so I can be up there to the front.
Well, I think you'll have to speak, to the park staff about why you got put over there,
Well,
but.
this is your first year.
Yes,
You
anyway.
are a first-year prac member, Steve, let's be fair.
So let me just add a couple of things to the conversation. I do support moving the RV park. I know that through the work that we've done over the last many years with regard to the Blue Heron site, people have a desire to get next to the water. They want to be able to see it. And if there's a way to do the RV park where they can have a little bit of a view out to the river, that's fine. But I don't think that they should have the total sole hold on it. Because I've been down there and you don't feel like you want to walk there because there's all those people's trailers and things. So I would like to see more access to the river. So I like the option that has that in there, and I think almost all of them. I don't want to see it become more parking. I think we need to restore the bank of the river there. Now, I don't go back as far in Oregon City as Mr. Smith does, but I can recall a conversation where we talked about the Willamette extensively, and it wasn't going to work. So I don't know how much more we need to study this because it's been there, done that, and done that. I agree with the concept of, the boat ramp. I'm not saying whether I support it there or not there, but I also don't want us to spend any more money trying to engineer something that Mother Nature or Father Nature is just going to tear back out again, and we might get 5 years of use out, we might get 4 years of use, we could have another 96 flood and the whole thing is gone. So I don't think that works. I don't think that's an option either, and we're not going to solve it with this master plan. For me, it's a combination of 2 and 3. I did want to put in a plug, Kurt, if you can. If that is an old-timey swing set, like the one we used to have at the library, and if you talk to Sid Scott, you'll know that I was one of the proponents for keeping the original play equipment because, I know we have so much plastic stuff, and let's just face it, a lot of us grew up with a metal slides and metal, and we don't care that our butts got hot or, our legs got burned. That was part of the whole adventure of being a kid. So if there's some place we can relocate that play equipment so they don't make it like that anymore. Some of the plastic stuff we have out there, after 5-10 years, it's starting to fade. It looks terrible. I support the metal play equipment, and I go to the library quite often and swing over there. I haven't been on the slide lately because it's been too wet, but we all are children at heart. So if we can reuse it, let's reuse it. I don't want to see it get trashed. So that's all I kind of want to say, and we are out of time, but I want to thank all the PRAC members for coming, and I know we have, Mr. Conkle, we have some more sessions coming up about this particular topic.
The plan is to get feedback from the City Commission and PRAC, to incorporate that feedback into hopefully a final concept, and come back and share that concept with City Commission and PRAC to see what your thoughts are moving forward. We're trying to get as much feedback from the community as well, so we can bring that information back that will help guide decisions on why we chose to go a certain route, and then bring that information back. But some items that we're trying to figure out and get input on are the boat ramp and the RV park. So.
All right, okay. So I just want to say to the people who are here tonight, thank you so much. We generally don't have testimony or comments at a work session, but I'm going to just put it out there. If you see them shaking their heads, feel free to contact any of us with your comments or concerns. My phone number is on the city's website. Feel free to call me if you have some thoughts about that. So, if there's information you think that I don't have, I'm very happy to talk to you. Or if you see me at the grocery store in aisle 13 at Fred Meyer, stop me, talk to me about it. I'm happy to talk to you. Just, let us know what we can, We want to hear what you have to say. We've got the survey. So those of you in the audience, how many of you took the survey? Okay, those of you who did not, why did you not take the survey? Please take the survey. It's still open, correct?
Yes, it is, and we can probably pop it back up on the
Okay,
screen.
so please
as a
go online
QR code.
and take it, because it's important that your input is important, and this is one way for you to participate and do that, so, yes.
So is this going to come back to the commission and the
PrAC,
PrAC
what he
just
said.
at 2 separate meetings?
We have discussed if we're going to do a joint session or anything. It probably would be best if we could have a joint session.
I agree.
Then you better make it 3 hours.
Well, we're not gonna.
Because we haven't even touched it.
We're not gonna reinvent the wheel. We're gonna make it very
No,
strategic
but I mean,
about what we're talking
if they
about.
really want the feedback, then it's going to take
Our
that long
feedback.
because I know I've held a lot back tonight.
Thank you.
And I think we've all probably held back tonight.
Oh, I said what I thought.
So we can't do this in an hour.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much,
So maybe
everybody.
2 meetings.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to adjourn the work session, and we will start up the city commission work session in, what do you say, 5 minutes, Mr. Conkle?
I liked everywhere too.
Okay, we'll be adjourned till 7:10.